Hello, all. Good evening. Welcome to the 85th edition of FAYA Port 80 in association with NASCOM, supported by GTech, Kerala Startup Mission, CAFET, and Rapid Value Solutions. So, for the newbies here, let me give you a short introduction about FAYA Port 80. Port 80 was a community that was formed back in 2013, and it was and still is a dominant name among the communities, technology communities that is in Kerala. Port 80 is continuously running sessions on a monthly basis in Trivandrum, Cochin, and Calicut. So we as a community is always keen on selecting the topics that are the need of the hour, may it be technology or may it be any other paradigms. So today also we have selected such a topic, the need of the hour, how to manage work from home scenarios, both personally as well as on a career basis. So we were thinking like how to find a person who can talk on such a vast domain, because this topic will cover multiple domains, multiple aspects. And we are really lucky and we are so happy that we have such a person who will be leading the show today. So without much of an introduction, this person actually needs no introduction because he's so popular among the common masses and also among us techies. He's none other than Vinod Narayan, aka we all know him by the name Ballatha Pahayan. So just to give a short introduction about Vinod. So Vinod, where to start? Vinod failed in the first grade. In the first grade, he failed, but then he managed to get into NIT, National Institute of Technology. Then he himself started his entrepreneurship journey. In his entrepreneurship journey, he has touched many fields, including shrimp farm. He was a shrimp farm owner once. And then he later moved on to becoming a poet, creative content manager, filmmaker, digital content master as such. So he has touched various domains. And he's now really popular among the common people with his blogs, vlogs, and with his powerful statements on almost all domains like politics, geography, literature, socioeconomics, whatnot. So, welcome, Vinod. Welcome. We are really happy to have you on the show.
Thanks, Nitin. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So, Vinod, personally, I'm a keen follower of yours.
Thank you.
So, right from the day I have watched your minimal agile talk on Malayalam, you were the first person who really talked about agile in Malayalam, and that really made sense to me also. And that particular talk really cleared a lot of doubts for me. So it is really interesting to know such a such a creative person is also practicing agile for 10 more than 10 years right now, right?
Yeah,
You have been practicing agile since, yeah. So where did it all start? I mean, I would like to hear about your agile journey.
So
Let's start with that.
yeah, so agile journey, 10, 12 years. See, I don't know about you guys. For me, whenever a new idea is brought to me, I have severe resistance towards it. So when agile was probably first introduced to me, I believe sometime in 2008 or 9 time, we were pretty much used to the waterfall method of doing things, the long life cycles of how software gets developed. And then so obviously there was a lot of resistance. So if you look at it, 2009, it is already agile as a process have been already about 8 years old. But even then, and I kept resisting it for probably about 2 years till finally I could not resist it because it was happening all around me. So for any person who is working in the agile field and they're introducing the concepts to others, it's natural that you might have some kind of a resistance. And that's okay, because some of the resistance you can only overcome if you show something working. And the good thing about Agile is that you can show something working in a shortest period of time. Probably within a month, 2 months, you can see it working if you're doing it properly. Now, not as a perfect, but at least you can see some progress. So I think throughout my journey, Agile journey, the time I got introduced to the process, and when I started taking that into my life and doing all the internal small projects that I have also in an Agile fashion, the idea is that iterative, fail fast, try it out, experiment, do it. You don't wait for doing it the perfect way. You wait for doing it, making sure that it's workable in some way, because you deliver something and then you get some feedback so that you can do a better iteration next time. So that's primarily where Agile is. And from there, I started moving to Agile, doing Scrum Master related activities, and then coaching, training, and then moved into scaled Agile with and that's been my journey of the past probably, yeah, 12 years, I should say, since I first heard about Agile.
I still remember your yeah. I still remember your last statement in that video blog, like being agile at work and minimal at life.
Yeah,
That
so I
that
think
that is that was really inspiring.
yeah, I think that's what I came to find, because being agile at work is only half the thing. Because if you're not minimal in life, you're never going to be truly agile at work, because there's a lot of baggage that you carry with you, and it makes you very slow. And so it depends on, I mean, even matter of food. I Whenever I work, if I'm not working from home, throughout my career, I take food from home. I I don't eat at work. When you have lunch parties, or when you have rare occasions, otherwise I always carry my tiffin, just like I used to carry it when I was in first grade or second grade. And the reason I do that is that at 12 o'clock I don't want to get distracted and confused as to where should I go and eat, what should I eat. Those are major distractions. And I don't know what I want to eat, so it makes it very simple. I have something. I mean, maybe sometimes I take the tiffin, I don't eat it, I go out and eat if needed, but that's the sense of minimal. Every aspect of
Minimalism.
you has to be minimal. It makes life more easier. And some people,
Uh,
obviously, when you say that I take tiffin, most of the people don't like taking tiffin because they want to go, but it makes life easy for me, at least personally.
Yeah, and I was also very interested while reading across your biography. Like once you did in drive view, that was also like where you are into content managing, but then you really found an innovative way of doing it. So was it part of agile? Was it part of your agile journey, or was it before that? So innovation is also really something that you did. You are
Yeah.
keeping on doing it.
So so what do we do in Agile? If you We can't say do Agile, because there's nothing called doing Agile, because Agile is a mindset rather than a method. So you cannot do Agile, you can only be Agile. So you're either Agile or you're not Agile. So there's no doing Agile. It's not a process or a method that you give and then people start working on it. So but if you look at how we go over the methodology, Scrum or any of the methodology that you're using, your role is to maximize the work not done, or making it as simple. Because one of the principles of the 12 agile principles is simplicity, and it talks about maximizing work not done, which is removing waste, the whole concept of lean agile as well. So if you want to do a interview, or if you want to do or create content, there are a lot of work that you have to do. keep the camera properly, make sure that lighting is proper, um, have the depth view if you want, then record. There are a lot of things, and I'm sure all those things would make the video much better. But I am not looking at content quality in terms of, I'm not looking at the visual quality of the
Aesthetics.
content, aesthetics. No, because that's not what I'm trying to provide either. So the whatever time I spent on doing that, it was all to me a waste of time. So uh, I I listen to podcasts while I walk or I drive. So multitasking is very important. So I wanted to interview these people, and then I had to have a place. Either I have to go to their house, they have to come to my house, or I have to find a place. Then I said, why not do it in the car? And at that, initially when I thought about it, we didn't have the technology available. But then the GoPro came in. GoPro, you can use GoPro and take videos, and it will take care of the shaking, and it'll be more stabilized kind of video. uh, so so I'll be driving. Anyway, you've got to spend some time. You'll buy a coffee from somewhere, then have coffee, and then so that I used to do it about 2-3 times. I've done it, but then I stopped. uh, I think I've not done one like that for about 3 years now. So probably 3 years ago I did a few. But that's the whole idea, the
But
removal of
definitely
waste, the making sure that you maximize the work not done.
not done. Yeah. So I could see that. So apart from that, Vinod, we also have some of the leaders who are running the show behind the Agile Kerala. There is a community, Agile Kerala, who are really keen on discussing various hot topics and changing trends in Agile, and also supporting people who are really new to this whole paradigm. So I would like to introduce Mr. Cipson from an MNC, and also Mr. Jithesh, who is working in an Oracle. So hi
Hey,
Cipson, hi Jithesh.
Hi, hi everyone.
Hey, Vinod.
Hi Vinod.
hi.
So Jitesh,
Yeah,
so we have Vinod here, and you and me had a discussion a few days before, right? So what are the key challenges that you're facing as the pandemic has for a lot of struggles before us? So you as a person who's leading a team, so what are the key challenges that you're facing, and how do you think, or what would you try to bring to the table in the community discussion today?
sure, Nathan. So, first of all, thank you for inviting us. So, thank you, Vinod. So, I think it was very interesting to hear a completely new terminology on minimalism at life and then practicing Agile. So, that was completely new concept. Thank you for that. So, the basic challenge that we face now with the COVID coming in, work from home becoming a norm for everyone is we know that we have been as human beings as social animals, we are being in at the main paradigm to interact with people and get a sense of how they feel about how we do our work, but that is not there right now. So how do we make sure that we build that connection between people and get the work done in a very very compassionate way? I think that's what my question would be to you.
Okay. So when we talk about working from home, see, immediately after I graduated in '93, I think I got to work from home from that time because I started my own business. So we were working out of a room in my house, and that's so at that time we were working from home and we were working over phone because we didn't have any other technology. We didn't have internet. We didn't have anything. We just had a phone. So '93 we were working from home but working over phone, and then probably about 7 years fast forward into I think I was in London at that time. Again, I was back to working from home, and at that time I was working from home but working through email because email was popular by that time. We were working on email. Fast forward another 5 years, I was again working from home in when I was here in the US. And at that time, I was working through IM, which is the instant messaging, because I didn't have instant messaging when I was in UK during the 2000. But then by 2005, instant messaging was very popular. So you started doing a lot of communication over instant messaging. It became more personal and available. Now, fast forward again to 2020, we are all, majority of us are forced to work from home. And we have things like WebEx and Zoom and all those stuff that is allowing us to work in a much better way than what it was 93 way back. So I've seen this technology change in such a way that it has enabled us to be working through phone to working with Zoom, in just like how we would be working in a conference room together. But what has happened is people have been thrust into working from home at this moment without any preparation to it. So we all have our own way of working. So there are people who want to stand and work at the office. So you have the desks which are raised desks where you want to stand and work. There might be people with back pains who can't. They might not have that facility at home because they probably would not be able to, or they never used to work at home. So and then there are some people who can only work when they get triggered by going and talking to people and having a chat at the pantry and then come back. So that is needed. So we all have different ways of working, and an office environment gave us all that ability to work the way we want, and we all felt working when we are in office kind of thing. For me, it is okay because I've done a lot of time I've done working from home, so it comes natural to me. But as a team, if you're managing, the first and foremost thing about being considerate is that understand that everyone is not like you. Everyone doesn't have the same house. For example, in my house, I've got 1,000 square feet. We've got 4 people. We don't have a separate, me and my wife, we don't have a separate room to take our calls. So both of us will be taking calls, and you have to adjust. So there is a different dynamics that works in my house compared to your house, which means when you work as a team, you need to be considerate of each of these dynamics and make sure that you have to renegotiate or recreate the contract that you have with your team members. An agreement. How do you work? See, everything is fine if 9 of you people come to the office. You all have your daily stand-up in the morning. Then you have your other meetings. You have your conferences. Your work. All those things are there. That is gone. That is shattered. That doesn't work that way. So now, do you have an agreement? If you don't have an agreement, then things will fail, because you are expecting. There are team members who would have very small kids. There are team members who would have other problems, whatever issues they have. Elderly parents, and the house is a whole different thing from office. So how do you reconnect and recreate that agreement with everyone? Because you have to come up with something that works for everyone. That I think is a primary focus before you even get into the weeds of how you things to do that. If you don't have that contract or agreement, then you don't understand what's happening in each of these places.
Very true, very true. I think that actually brings in the first level, right? What to start with, right?
Yeah.
So I think probably the next thing that would happen is probably in the environments right now, right? It's not only kids which is mattering to people. They've been called out for a lot of things which they used to do outside of their office hours during the household time, and they have to manage all these things in this time, and they might get into that time beyond that working hours to get things done.
Yes.
So that is getting, it's not only for any specific company that matters right now, because there is a lot of fear that is there in the news and everywhere. This is happening, that is happening. So they don't know what to do. There are a lot of priorities. So the takeaway, I think we would expect from you is just to give some few tips to the people who are watching this to see how can they minimally do those things easily.
So I am not of the opinion that people who go to office are productive 8 hours. What you get out of a person is 2 hours, 3 hours of solid work. That's my take. Rest of the 5 hours is just used in making this 3 hours work happen, because I've seen people who don't come to office and work from home to complete work.
Right.
And this used to happen throughout my career, where people would say, I'm going to work from home because I just need to catch up on something. Because at office, they have meetings after meetings after meetings, which have no absolute, and you cannot say no to meetings. And you have to attend those meetings. You are not fully productive in the meeting. You're not in the meeting. You're not in your work. So that productivity issue is something that happens in the normal organization also. But you don't feel that because you find this person present physically available in the office. So you are making a judgment that 8 hours is being worked, but it doesn't happen. So if you really start taking the real essence of, are we being productive, because I know there are a lot of companies, they're saying that you were able to do much more than when you used to go to office. Because one thing is that you've reduced the commute time. If you used to have 1 hour commute time, that's 2 hours that you gain working from home. Now,
Right.
the question is, what are you going to do with that 2 hours? Are you going to sleep 2 hours more, or are you going to use that 2 hours for something that is productive? So it's all individually. And when you have this contract or agreement, you start discussing these things. So everyone would say, okay, because no one really realizes that they have saved 2 hours if they used to commute 1 hour. Then they're not thinking that you're gaining 2 hours, and that's a lot of time, which means
Right.
if your actual productivity is 3 hours, then in the remaining 8 hours you only have to work for 1 or 2 hours. So
True.
it all depends on the trust. See, we work on a trust framework.
Right.
We even in Agile, the main thing what you say is that you have motivated individuals who are forming a self-organized team, and you trust them to complete their job. Now,
Right.
we are adults, we are not kids. So that trust, if that trust is not there, then nothing is going to work. See,
True.
for example, but we all form an agreement. For example, my wife works from home, I work from home. What we do is that afternoon there is an hour we take off because we go for a walk. And that, if it's not that hot, but we make sure that we take that 1 hour to go for our walk sometime midday, not in the morning. And that's okay, as long as your team member knows, or let everyone walk at that time, or
Right.
find a time. Nothing is going to happen if your team doesn't work for 2 hours during this period. As long as you can take care of these 2 hours, work for whatever it is, then you will even get pulled into various things. The kids are running around, kids fall, or there is something that happens. The kid comes and says, can I eat this? Can I eat that? See, there's so many distractions that come. So one way of saying is, a lot of people say is that have your own home office working space.
Right.
Now, it's possible for some people, but it's not possible for everyone. I don't have a working space in my home where I can completely get not distracted by anything else that's happening. Whether it's the bedroom or the living room or wherever it is, I don't have a space like that. Which means when I'm on a call, you would see someone going, I've turned this like this because if people are walking over there, it doesn't come on my screen. So there's a lot of limitations in which people work. Acknowledging that limitations is what it happens, because we are all humans. And when you do that agreement initially, a lot of these things will get solved, because you will start discussing all these issues with your team members and figuring out what do you do. So someone would say, okay, my cooking is one issue that I have, because if I'm there, and then you can find out ways to make that. And even then life comes in between. But then that is where we become considerate and say, okay, we plan, as they say, life is what happens when you're busy planning it. So life will always come in between.
Right.
So you have to find a way in which you can work through it.
Sure. So I think, next question, I think, taking from your words, like when you go for lunch, you actually take it from home. Why? It is because of to avoid that decision fatigue. Like we have seen that Mark Zuckerberg do it. He used to wear the same type of T-shirts. I think it's a very valid point that we can avoid all these decision fatigues once we pre-plan activities which can be done, which are already there, so that we leave our brain free for other things to do. I think that is something which is really a problem for people right now. Thank you for bringing that point.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's right. Because I personally like to take as less decisions as needed, and because it's always it's been a major stress whenever I have to take any decision, even if that is what should I eat. I prefer a life where I don't have to take decisions, but that's not possible. And my friend used to say that's because you are very lazy, so you don't want to take this. And maybe I'm okay. I would rather be lazy without stress than be stressed out and make people give a free. I would rather be stress free.
Good. So thank you. I think those are very key takeaways for us to start with. And next is on your agile journey, along with creative writing. How did you end up doing both, like poetry, agile? They are completely different things.
Everyone will not do everything because it depends on how much you want it. You will do something only if you want to have it as if your life depends on it. See, the way the definition for being professional is you do something as if your life depends on it. So when I used to do my computer business back in '94, I had a person who used to work for me, and he would go and service a computer, and then the customer would say, I want to service my computer, but can you send this particular service engineer? And I asked them why. And the reason they say is that if that guy comes, he also makes sure that whole table is clean. So he leaves the mark of himself when he does the work and completes. That's because he thinks that to be his life, as if life depends on it. Now, he used to play instruments. He used to find time for playing instruments. Now, if you have something that you're really interested in, you will find your time, whether it is creative writing, making videos. For me to make a video of 15 minutes and edit it and upload it, it takes me only half an hour.
Oh, great.
So nothing more than that. So because that is how I have kind of perfected that process of doing it. Because I don't decide. I would decide this is the video I probably would have to make. I would have my thoughts there. I would sleep over it. It would be there. And then I don't do any edits. So I go ahead and just speak. I record it during that time. I do it only in the morning most of the time if possible, because there'll be enough natural light and I don't have to worry about the lighting within the room. And I have lighting and everything I bought, but I never used it. And then so this comes to the first point of saying that maximize the work not done. So everything that I don't want to do so I like creating a video, I like putting it over there, but there are a lot of things that I absolutely don't like. I don't like scripting. I don't like scripting and going through it and learning, and that takes out that natural
flow.
Natural flow of things. And so I don't want to do that. And I hate doing that activity. That initial pre-production activity is something that I don't like. Also, I don't like the editing part of it. So I want to have it within the. So that is why I decided not to do edits. If you look at some of the videos, I have repeated things. But then over 2 years now, it has become very easy for me to do it. I try to not repeat. But even then, it's not the perfect way. But at least I'm putting the stuff out there. See, in content management and content creation, like someone asked Gary Vaynerchuk of the VaynerMedia as to I create content, but I don't look good in it. My sound is not good. The video doesn't look good, and all those things. He said, "Who cares? You either put video out, you don't put video out. More content you put in, it makes sense. You don't put, you can learn. See, if you have a problem about making mistakes, then you won't do. If you think that you're going to put something that is not perfect and that makes the fool out of you, then you won't do. But then you won't do anything.
Exactly. I think that is a fear of perfectionism, that
Yeah.
everything should be perfect. And, if I do it, if it goes wrong, I'll be at the receiving end. That fear, I think, which is there, I think, which has to go away. And I think the balance that you did, I think everyone should, I think, do is like do some creative work along with your professional work. I think that has given you a sense of purpose, I believe. Do you agree?
Yes. So I started writing, I think in 2003, 2004 time frame is when I probably started writing. And I did not know that I had any inclination towards writing at that time. But then I wrote, my wife writes, and then actually we started writing when we were dating, and we started writing to each other. That's how it started, and probably that's the
Okay.
reason why it continued. And then that continued, and then I never thought that I would make a video, but I remember into 2006 or 2007 is probably when I got a small video camera just to take videos, because the phone did not have that facility. But I never, and it was all related to, I was doing business at that point of time, and I read that, and we were doing content management. So I read that video is going to be the next important thing in terms of content, and I wanted to create business content. So there was nothing to do with the kind of logging that I do right now, but the idea was to create videos that I could use as sales items in my business. That was the idea of
Oh,
videos.
okay, nice.
So that is how I started making videos. But I never that there I had a fear. I had a fear of putting it out there, because my business credibility was there, and I didn't want to make a fool of myself, which will impact the business. So there was a lot of things that was at stake at that point of time, and I didn't put it. So when I was putting it on my own video, then I care less. I mean, if someone says it doesn't look good, okay, fine. I mean, that's how you feel. It's not my problem. But when it is business, obviously, yeah, and I can understand why making a video for a business and putting it out is not as simple as, and that's why now I do videos. I run my own company. I do videos. I don't have another person I need to ask. I am my company. My company is me. So there's no other brand that I'm building. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Cipson, please go ahead. I think you have a point.
Yeah.
Please.
Vinod, you just
Yeah.
mentioned that you started with a purpose to promote your company for the video, and you end up into the different area or different objective. Like
Right.
absolutely, we are talking about in the Agile values,
Yeah.
responding to change over following a plan.
Right. Exactly.
That is what exactly reflecting. And if you're looking into the current world and current situation, everywhere we can see that people are responding to change because they cannot plan anything in the current world. How Agile is complementing this responding to change in the current situation? Is it adding a lot of value to the organizations or the way how we are working currently?
See, when you look at change, there was a time when we always talked about managing change. We were not even talking about responding to change. We were talking about managing to change. So you had change managers, you had change management board. What do we say? CR, the change request, right? Change request,
Right.
change control board, and all those kind of stuff that we used to have. You have some 5 people sitting and deciding whether a change should be incorporated into it or not. So that was a whole process that we had. So change, we were able to manage change, we were able to incorporate change, but at a big cost of time and money. But then this whole concept of responding to change over following a plan doesn't mean the plan is not required, but it just says that we might work according to our plan, but the world doesn't work according to our plan. The market doesn't work according to our plan. The industry doesn't work according to our plan. The department on the other side is not going to work according to our plan. No one works according to our plan except us. So plan is only good as long as we are working on it. I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock. I do these things, all works. But that doesn't mean you have to get up at 6 o'clock and connect with me at that point of time, unless we have an agreement to be on a call at 7 o'clock. So responding to change is something that gets thrown to us. So what has happened with organizations over the past probably about 20 years is moving from managing change to leading change. So change has to be led by someone within the organization. If you're in a team, you have to have someone leading a change. And when you say leading a change, you are making people part of that change. You're forming a coalition. You're forming a sense of urgency. See, many times we don't change because everyone doesn't have the same sense of urgency. Now, when we are all forced to work from home, still many people are not understanding the sense of urgency. At least initially they did not, because they were expecting after 1 week we will go and work back in office. So I'll take off this 1 week. I can do all the work that I'm not doing in this 1 week after I go to office. Then 1 week became 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So that sense of urgency is very important if you want. So this comes again to the point of having an agreement when something like this change happens. When a change happens, and if you are a leader in an organization and you've recognized a change, your first thing is making sure that everyone recognizes the change in the same sense of urgency or not. If not, you will not be able to lead change. You will not be able to respond to the change, because people are all sitting at different planes, different levels of where the sense of urgency is. Unless the sense of urgency is there, once you have the sense of urgency, then you start creating a small change coalition team, or people who are responding to this change. You cannot have everyone respond to the change. You need, in an organization, you need a small group. For example, in organization, there is probably an agile office or APMO or something like that you might have. If that is there, then and that is not just from software agility, but also business agility. So probably these people would be the people who will kind of figure out, okay, there is a change. Let's first tell everyone that something is changing. Now, let's figure out how to lead this change and make sure that we get something positive out of the change. And every time change is about getting a competitive edge in the market. If you respond to the change, especially for COVID or this time, everyone is faced with the change of working from home. Now, what is your competitive edge as an organization or a team during this time of change? It is, if you respond to change in such a way that it helps you in delivering features faster, better, or if you're able to de-stress your people during this period of time, that is a major thing that you can gain. Because if you're able to de-stress the people during this period of time, because you have got in your hands so much more time that you can use to build employee relationships and even customer relationships. What do you know about your customer's industry? What do you know about how the customer's industry has impacted? That is where the responding of change happens. It's not just responding to the change that is happening to us, but also responding to the change that might be happening to the customer's industry. Because if your products are not responding to the change the customer's industry is facing, then why are you in the business of building software, right? Because your aim is to respond to a change, not for yourself, but also for the customer. So that's how layered this whole responding to change activity really works.
Yeah, a lot of places people misunderstood the concept of the responding to change, because Agile says that responding to change. That shows that any changes can be accepted within the fixed time frame. Whatever you plan something and something new is coming, and that sentence is there, right? The value responding to change. Let us add the changes on top of that one. Is it a good practice, or is it the right way to address that changes?
So responding to change is something. If you're looking at an agile team, you are probably, as a scrum master and team members, you are knowing about the change from your product owner. And product owner is a person who is interacting with the customer. So making sure that you envisage changes or what needs to happen is something that you get from practice. Working with a customer, if you're working with a customer for a long period of time, you understand how things are moving. Many times change comes because of some government regulations maybe, or some real shaking that happens within the industry or within the market. They have some acquisitions that was done. They have their CEO leaving the company, or there might be some major changes within the customer, and that is why changes would happen. Now, typically what I say is that so this again comes to technical competency, having designs that leave options open so that you can make design changes down when a change comes. So these are all factors about of really being, it's not accepting change, it's also how are you responding to the change, how can you really incorporate the change. One team might be better ready to respond to change than another team. It all depends on if one team has a very inflexible design which doesn't have any options open to go in different directions, then you would have a pretty difficult situation to respond to a change compared to another company which has spent real time in preserving options. So, and technical competence, agile as a process doesn't make an incompetent guy competent. Incompetent person is incompetent whether you use agile or you use something else. But agile gives a small piece of, but you don't look at incompetence on a personal level. You look at incompetence and competence on a team level. So you can have people who might be not that competent and still have a regular continuous improvement. See, we all talk about continuous learning and continuous improvement as part of Agile. So one of the things that happens is you have this continuous improvement on a team level and on an individual level. If there is someone who doesn't know how to code certain things, maybe that person will have they can start working on less complex stories, build up into that. Okay, this is all in a perfect world. We know that's not how the world works. You will have different kind of people within the team. Now, that is where it comes. Do you have motivated team members? For me, competence and incompetence is not a problem, but motivation is a problem. If you're not motivated, then you can't do anything. Even I can work with people who are incompetent, but if they're motivated, they can be competent down the line. But if incompetence and lack of motivation are together there, then it's very difficult to churn this thing through.
Yeah, this motivation is always an interesting topic for the organizations. Like before the COVID period, a lot of initiatives in the organizations conduct for motivating the employees. Is the motivation is self-motivation is more required than the manager motivation or the higher authority or the leadership motivation? What is more appropriate, or there should be a balance between these two?
Yeah. So I think motivation is a rather screwed up word, especially in Kerala right now, because I find a lot of people, even people 16, 17 years old, who are motivating people and with not even a single experience about what life is all about. And everyone, dime a dozen motivation speakers are available. And I say that because when I was 21, I remember sitting in a conference call in 22 years old, sitting in a conference listening to Zig Ziglar and Hal Cross talking over video. These were motivations. So this industry used to be in America for a long time. Even now, Tony Robbins and all those people, that motivation is very passive. It doesn't help at all. You attend a motivation class. You attend this motivation. Have you seen this motivation? And I have nothing against motivation people, but I'd like to make fun of these people because life doesn't change that way. You go to a stage, and this motivation guy will be running all around the stage, as if he's got some. He's on some extra energy and Red Bull and all those things, because that is not the energy that people would have. He would jump up and down and he'll clap and he'll do. Tony Robbins does that. And I'm not saying that it's all fun. It's entertainment. It's not motivation. It's entertainment. See, it's all fun to do that. Real motivation comes from exploring and observing people around you. And that has nothing to do with people who might otherwise be found to be very motivating. These are people who most of the time I have motivated myself to work on certain things because I've seen certain people I work with work in a certain fashion. The way they work, the way they bring clarity to ambiguous things. So you can have a culture of learning. I think a culture of learning and small successes. That is what motivation is all about. And even if you are going and patting on the back and telling you did a good job, it has become so monotonous and so artificial that we keep telling good job to everyone, and it doesn't have a meaning. I'm not saying don't do that, but have small successes, have small celebrations, small wins, and that is what motivates people. You can have. I have worked in companies where I had an absolutely great team, everyone liked, but we never win. We always struggling, and it's all good team we all like, but we don't have even one single win in a regular basis. There was time when we were not delivering any workable software. Then what is the big point? You work and work and work. The software never comes to light. For a software engineer, that's how can you motivate a person? How can you motivate a software engineer telling him you did a great job, but your software is not going to see the light?
True. Very true.
So that is what motivation really matters. Small wins and being able to learn and observe from people around you in many things.
So I think one point to add is on the small success, right? People are very much hesitant to appreciate people on small success. I think that is something which we always keep the bar very high. I think that is some one key thing I believe that you're bringing into our notice. We have to celebrate small success.
Yeah, we have to celebrate. See, there is obviously going to be an anti-pattern, a problem that will happen where you will start sleeping on your past laurels, and that is an issue. But if you have a regular small wins, see, if you have one win, then people will sleep on that. But if you have a habit of small wins, then everyone knows after this win there will be another win down the line. But if you don't have anything and you have one win, he'll think, well, now for the next win, it's not like salary upgrade that happens every year. This is, you don't have to wait for 1 year for the next win to happen. See, in Agile, that's an interesting thing, right? You work in 2-week sprints or 1-week sprint. Every 2 weeks, if your focus is on workable software, or learning something or progressing. So that's why we say we have to have a visual picture of progress.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't visually know how you're improving, you will do sprints for 3 months and you'll figure out, why am I doing this?
Very true.
And that is a very important thing, because when I used to have 2 and 3 product teams that we used to work with, I used to have something called a retro board. So after retrospective, we have a board where each retrospective you would have asked these questions, right? What went well, what did not go well, what can be improved. So from that, we would identify few areas which we think is very, and it might have issues that we might not improve for the next 6 months, because there might be management problem, there might be issues like that. Maybe none of us really know how to estimate. None of us know how to write a user story. So those are all issues that we have identified. But then every sprint, at the end of every sprint during retrospective, what we do is that we kind of give a thumbs up and thumbs down to these things, which means a thumbs up is, okay, did I do better than last sprint or not in this particular area? And it's a thumbs up. Or you put a pointing system, 1 to 10 or something like that. Or put a -1, +1, 0, which means -1 means, okay, we did a better job in last sprint. This sprint we did bad. Put a -1, we went down. Or 0. Yeah, but I cannot measure in any way. I think it was the same way than last sprint. So you put it at 0. So then you see this -1, 1, 0 going in each of these things. And over a period of time, what you'll find is that and just because you did a great job this sprint doesn't mean you'll do a great job next time. Because at the same way that you're improving, you also have a chance of going down on these things as well. But this visual gives you a reason why did you go bad. Maybe your estimation, you screwed up on your estimation because it was so complex and none of the team members had any clue regarding the functionality that needs to be built. And we all scrambled on it. We probably looked at the complexity thinking we understand it, but we did not understand it. So that visual, the retro board that we used to work on really helped us to see, look 4 sprints, 6 sprints down, and then kind of identified that, yes, it made sense.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's a very valid point. Sorry, Cipson, please go ahead, please.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great valid point, because from the traditional project, when we are getting very frequent opportunities are very minimal to get the appreciation or celebration. As in the sprint or scrum or in the agile world, yeah, we are getting in a 2 weeks or 3 weeks time, we can get an opportunity to appreciate. And the appreciation, there should be an emotion also attached to that appreciation. It is not just dropping a mail, oh, good job, guy. There is no feelings or emotions attached to that. And people love to get the appreciation in a group rather than one-to-one appreciation. People don't, okay, only getting appreciated in a group of team members in front of them and all, that makes a lot of value for the team members, and that will get motivate in some aspect. Apart from that, sometimes one day you completed your day and look back and see what is the biggest achievement, what I planned and I delivered. And that can be a self-motivation. Here Firoz is putting a chat saying that we have to get self-motivated ourselves. Don't wait for others to motivate us to get the motivation.
Yeah. And I think one way when you talk about daily stand-up, right? So we do retrospective at the end of the sprint. So I have a program that I'm working on currently for to give people, even with not a lot of software experience, get an idea of being agile. And in that, I am taking the Scrum process into life and telling them how you could do this sprint into your daily life. And in that, what I tell is that you do a daily retro, not the weekly retro. So just like in the morning, you have a daily stand-up and decide what you want to do today and everything, what impediments you have. At the end of the day, you do the same retrospective on a daily basis, what went today. Because when you're doing on an individual scale, any retrospective that you do at the end of the day, you can find something that you can improve the next day. See, changes are more fast when you're working as an individual, because you can make a change to your working tomorrow just like that. As a team, that's why we can only make many changes only on a what do you call, on a sprint basis. But on an individual basis, you can make the change every day if you want. And coming to daily stand-ups, especially when working from home scenario, we typically have one daily stand-up, right, in the morning when you do. But it is always good to explore the possibility of having 2 or 3 daily stand-ups, because you don't have other avenues to meet with the team. Just 10 minutes, taking that 10 to 15 minutes in the midday and end of the day would really be helpful, because that would take care of the and even though you're working on Slack and everything, even then, I think at least having one more daily stand-up you can always experiment, right? Have a daily stand-up and see if that helps out. Just to see, responding to change is also experimenting with how things are, and you might find a way things work better.
Absolutely, yeah. Very valid point, yeah. Because we are inspecting and adapting in each and every day, right, in the agile world.
Yeah.
So I think it is a great point that you brought up, that you have to do a daily retrospective, because individual level, when you're making that change next day, you bring it a change in your habit of doing things. I think you mentioned it earlier also, that habit of appreciating people has to be brought in, like similar to that, a habit of small changes on what you did bad yesterday and doing 3 stand-ups a day. Really great point to add. And the biggest point right now for people is to bring that transformation from people who are doing completely waterfall model to agile. In some of the retrospectives, people don't take those points directly. I mean, it's like, when you say that you're not doing, you didn't do it right, people don't take it nicely. And then how can we do a smooth transition from the completely waterfall to agile? What sort of steps do you do?
Yeah, because see, another thing with retrospective is that, I don't know, I have faced many times when retrospective people don't join. Right. People, and one reason I found for that is because most of the companies do sprints from Monday to Friday. So they start the sprint on a Monday and then they end the sprint on a Friday. Friday is a very bad day to do a retrospective because you have Saturday and Sunday. We have done it. We have done the demo. We've done. Why do you want to put us again into one going through this whole thing? So I would prefer a Wednesday to Tuesday sprint where the sprint starts on a Wednesday and ends on a Tuesday, which means Tuesday retrospective is your midweek. People will give more value to the retrospective because your week is not ending, and you can use what you learn in that retrospective as a team the next day. You're not going to sleep and go and watch Netflix and watch movies and escape from every work, and then come on Monday, you've forgotten what retrospective is all about. I prefer the Wednesday to Tuesday sprint cycle, which makes it makes more sense to at least the sprint your sprint planning. If you're doing sprint planning on the first day of the sprint, unlike I used to have teams where we used to do sprint planning within the sprint time, 1 hour, 1 week kind of stuff. But when you have that, having a sprint planning session on a Wednesday and a retrospective on a Tuesday really helps.
Yeah, that is a great point actually, because people will not fall under the weekend mood and all. Very valid point, and yeah, that makes sense a lot. Yeah, and here one of the question is we are talking about responding to change a lot, and how it can be. Is it fixed bit programs or projects can be suited for Agile, or how it can be taken care in the Agile world?
You mean, can every project or program be Agile?
The question is more around fixed contract projects. Can we make it?
Fixed bid. See, that is a double-edged sword, and I can understand that because that is what happens with a lot of small companies working from India or any place. You want the finance guy doesn't like Agile because he wants a fixed cost. He wants to know I'm going to spend $100,000 or I'm going to spend $500,000. Fine, you can do that, but then you can do. But you should understand that requirement change has a cost involved with it. So what happens for vendors in such cases is that you end up taking a order on a fixed bid, and then you welcome change because you're doing Agile. Right? That's how it works. And that is where, and when I said that, I said doing Agile because that's exactly what you're doing. You're trying to do Agile. You're not being Agile. Mm-hmm. See, when you do Agile, you'll have all these problems.
Okay.
So that's where it comes as a mindset. See, if someone asks me to do a fixed bid, I'll say fixed bid as long as you can fix your requirements. No, you cannot fix your requirements. Or, okay, I can fix my requirements. Okay, so you're saying that you as an organization are not going to respond to change. No change is going to happen. You control what is happening. Fine, if that's the case. See, it's like this. I give an analogy. When I used to sell computers, so this was a time when computers used to have this warranty, whatever it is. So people used to give 1 year warranty, 2 year warranty. So I was in a computer show in Bangalore. Holiday Inn, they had an event. So I was sitting over there. So we were giving 3 years warranty for our computer. Small company, we're all 23, 24-year-old guys. So we said that we'll give 3 year warranty instead of 1 year. So one guy came and said, oh, there is someone giving lifetime warranty for computer. Because people will do anything to sell, right? So then I said, okay, lifetime warranty. But how do you know whose life we are talking about? Computer's life, this company's life, your life? So when someone dies, the computer warranty is over. Is that how it is? See, many times what happens is that we think we know everything. See, you should probably look at where the customer is coming from. If the finance is coming from a cost that you fix the cost. See, internally, when you work with companies, this is a major struggle that most of the department people have. I want to build a project. I talk to the auditor or I talk to the finance manager. Finance manager say, yeah, I've got a budget of $500,000. You need to get things done in $500,000. So then it's my responsibility to ensure that I have everything in place to ensure that it gets done in 500. But what I do, I call a vendor and I put my problem, his problem. And then the vendor will come and take that problem and keep it on his. And then, I mean, if you're bent on screwing your life, then what else can happen, right? So that's how. So you are not solving an issue. You're just transferring the problem from one head to another head. And finally it comes to the software engineer sitting there and programming, and the whole problem is on his plate. So that is so it's not solving problems, and that's because we are not being agile. And that's why we always talk about partnerships, not projects, right? And you talk about products, not projects. See, when it is project, it's like never ending. We still have the mindset of waterfall and how things work, endless documentation. See, we are in the business of creating software. We are not in the business of documentation. How measure of work, measure of progress, the primary measure of progress is workable software. If you start a project and for the 4 months you did not write a single piece of code, what is your progress in the project? Zero. Nada. Nil. Right?
True.
Yes. And but we have all put effort. It is just like what do we say? I mean, you dig 30 meters and find water, or you make 40 holes of 1 meter. I mean, effort is more in digging 40, but outcome is not there. Output is there. Outcome is not there.
It's like you do hard work, but there is no result.
Yeah. So that is where we have to really look at how, and this depends on partnership. See, when you work with a vendor, you have to ask when you work with the customer, you have to ask, what does the customer want to achieve? See, the customer's interest is not that I've got 500,000 from my finance manager, I want to use it in building something. There might be some other what motivates the customer to build the software. If you don't know what motivates the customer to build the software, then how can you build something that will make the customer happy at the end of it?
Very true.
Yeah.
Maybe it's exactly.
Yeah.
No, maybe it is responding to a change. Maybe it is getting a competitive edge. Maybe it is getting a promotion for the customer who's giving you the order. I don't know. There might be some motivation that they might not tell you, but if you can sense that motivation, you can provide a better product for them, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
So what I think in the case of even MACD, I think I've heard that they actually want to know the reason why customers want a particular thing. When I think people were sitting in the cars, they wanted to have burgers they were in traffic queue. They wanted to sell something which is completely new. I've heard that story. I think it very much matches to your analogy that you need to understand why they are doing it. Whenever they give some money to us, we need to ask those questions to them. What motivates them in building that product? And we have to make them happy.
Exactly. See, before Agile came into existence, this conversation about value was not much there. We were talking about needs and requirements, but we moved from needs and requirements to value. Just because you have a need, just because you have a requirement doesn't mean it has a value. It's your perception about value. Now, if you as a vendor and someone as a customer don't recognize value in the same plane, there is no way that you can deliver value. What you're doing is delivering value. You're not delivering software. You're building workable software that adds a value, that delivers a value, or a certain incremental value during every sprint, right? So this question of why, Simon Sinek says that you have to ask this why. What is your why? Why are you getting up in the morning and going to work? Why are you working for a company? Why does a company even exist? Why question is very important in a life, as professional life and personal life. Similarly, when you're looking at product development, everything has a value. And how do you define a feature? Because it provides a tangible benefit, some kind of a value. And that's why when you create agile stories, you have enabler stories and feature stories. Enabler stories have they don't have a value which the customer will see, but they have to exist for other value to even get realized, right? So many times what happens is that product owner, if the enabler story is not something that comes from the product owner, uh, they would not feel the importance for the enabler stories. But unless the enabler stories are there, and I've seen sometimes sprints totally not take care of features, and they would work on building everything that is needed for features to be built on it, because you need to have that activity. It all depends on company to company, sprint to sprint, how you want to. And that's why we have this planning and prioritization activity in every sprint, right? See, if we do something that is totally of no value, our loss is only 2 weeks of work. Unlike 1 year of work that you have to throw outside the door. I have been in projects during the Y2K time, 1 year, 1.5 years projects, which finally they decide to scrap.
Oh.
1.5 years of work, you scrap because there's no need for that after that. And now whatever, see, you might go into the spring with the wrong features, wrong work, fine, but that's only 2 weeks.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is your loss is minimized there.
Very true. I think people have to understand that reason why they are doing it.
Yeah.
Probably, Cipson, please go ahead with your next point.
Yeah, because the waste what we are producing, which the customer doesn't have any value, that is very minimal, because only 2 weeks we are making not required product to the customer, right? And we are getting the feedback very frequently. And here we were talking about the making the customer happy. Firoz is asking a similar question: how only the customer should be happy, or what about the employees who making this product? How we can make them happy, or especially in the work from home situation?
See, definitely happiness is something. Making the customer happy is how you become happy as a business, because the customer gives you more business. And if employees are not happy, then there is an internal. It is not a customer's problem anytime. It is an internal problem that you have, where employees are not probably happy for many reasons. There are no opportunities for change. Maybe there is a line manager who's a total ass who should be chucked out of the company. That guy might be creating such a havoc that he is demotivating every single person reporting to him. Identify, get that person out of the company. You don't need some rotten eggs in the organization. So and there's no emotions here. It doesn't really work. See, if someone is demotivating a lot of people, that person shouldn't be allowed to be in the company. Point. Period. Done. And it doesn't happen very easily, because some of these people have some very core skills to hold on to, and they can be real jackasses with this core skill because they know they're irreplaceable, and such things might happen. So those are things that internally that you have to work. But if you have a very strong why for the organization, a vision, why do you exist, then people working over there exist. Why is it that startups people work with a lot of enthusiasm? Because that enthusiasm, you can see it with the people in the organization, in the leadership. You would see that people. So I just finished reading Facebook Inside Story by Stephen Levy, and it talks about how Facebook as an organization growing into startup, and then new things coming, and then they acquired Instagram, WhatsApp, and all those people, and then they come into Facebook, and they all want the independence to work. And then over a time, they become part of this big organization, and then they lose, because none of this Instagram founders, WhatsApp founders, none of these people are there. I think all the people, there were people who made millions of dollars from Facebook. Now they are blaming Facebook, and now they think Facebook is not right, but they're still sitting over there and typing with the money that they made from Facebook. Right? So they are unhappy people who have made money from the company. Imagine the situation. Right? So what? So how do you make people happy? He's made $500 million working for Facebook, and now he's unhappy. And he's saying, but he's not ready to give his $500 million back. Okay, he's unhappy. So it's a funny thing, people being happy and unhappy. And I think this conversation should be a fun thing to be happy. And happiness, see, transparency gives a lot of happiness, in my opinion. Transparency gives you happiness because you don't have anything to hide. And that is a very very important. And having that sense of humor. I think when Churchill met the then American president once. So American president came to meet Churchill. So he was sitting he was in his room. So Churchill has this habit coming from the bathroom. He doesn't put anything. If people are there also, he'll just walk naked. So this guy comes out of the bathroom. He comes walking naked, thinking it's only his people over there. And American president is sitting over there. And then he looks at American president and says, "See, look, the Prime Minister of United Kingdom has nothing to hide with the American president. Let us start talking." So that transparency and humor that comes into things is very important. And because once you're transparent about things, I think it gives people that without being fearful, they can pose opinions. That's why we don't ask line managers. So there are scrum masters who are actually line managers, which is a very bad pattern. Because then you cannot coach and work with the team if these are the people who are reporting to you. True. In retrospective, we don't have line managers. Why do we not have line managers? Because people want to be very open about things. And that transparency is very important within organizations. And happiness, everyone doesn't get happy with the same thing. And it's practically impossible for everyone to be happy with the same thing. But you can see, there is a question coming, is money the only scale of happiness? But money is not the only scale of happiness. But money is a happiness. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So if you are underpaid, and you feel you don't have to be underpaid, you have to just feel you're underpaid, you'll become unhappy, right?
True.
But if you're getting overpaid, that doesn't increase your happiness. You buy a car, you're very happy when you get the car. But then where does that happiness go within 1 week?
True.
Right?
You still scale up for the next happiness, big thing, big car, or next thing, right?
Yeah. So I have always thought about it. What makes me happy? Reading a book makes me happy. Having no plans for Saturday and Sunday makes me happy. I don't make any plans for Saturday and Sunday. I just maybe laze around, do what it is. I don't have anything planned for Saturday, Sundays. I just have time. And I think what makes me happy is time. That's the only thing that makes me happy. And that's the only thing actually that would make people happy. Because when you have time, you can feel alive. When you don't have time, you're not. I mean, that's what happens, right? When you die, you don't have any time. Done. Time is the only thing that goes, right?
Very true.
So when you do a planning and you create a sprint backlog, you don't create a sprint backlog expecting your team to work on Saturday and Sundays. But normally that happens. People work on Saturday, Sunday. There is a push. And we don't live in a perfect world. And if you see, you start now, maybe you will see that change happening probably in the next 6 months, 7 months. It's a long. Happiness is not. Money is the easiest way you can make a person give happiness, right? You just give an increase. You can switch on his happiness level, or at least he will say he's happy for some time. But a lot of people who get this increment start getting this so that they can tell the other company that they've been talking to that they are at this salary and they need more than that. So it all depends. Right. So money has its factors. You cannot the feeling of underpaid is what the issue is when it comes to money.
Yeah.
And now there is a lot of fear. People have a fear of losing their jobs. What is going to happen? See, there are a lot of factors that add up to a person's happiness.
So just to add to that particular point that you mentioned, the fear of losing job, right? I think that is very much prevalent right now with the people. So how to make sure that people make a change in that fear level? What should they do?
So one thing is that if you're going to lose job, you'll lose job. Right? If the market is down, if your customers go down, if you're going to lose job, you will lose job. I mean, you don't gain anything by being afraid. There's another thing that you can do. I always tell people to have a plan B or a plan C. Always you need to have a plan B or plan C. And losing job is something that happens at any part of the career and any stage of the career. If you don't have, so somewhere about 10 years back, when I started my business immediately after college. So I ran my own company for about 5-6 years, and then I got into the employment field. I worked in Bangalore and UK and Dubai and all those things, and came to the US, and again switched back to entrepreneurship and started my company. And I was there for about 7 years. When I left that, and then I went back into the workforce, not as an employee, but as a consultant. And I started consulting with companies. And then I took sabbatical for about 7 months. See, actually, I did not take sabbatical. What happened was that my contract ended, and then I said I was going to Hawaii, and I decided I am not going to look for a job at that point of time, because I thought there will be a job waiting for me. I went to Hawaii and came back. I figured out no one wants to hire me. And I would go to interviews, and I would think I'm the best person suited for that job. And I know it very clearly. But I knowing doesn't matter. The other person should feel, right? That he's hiring me. So if he doesn't feel I'm the right person, then why would he hire me? And then I figured out I go for in-person interviews, I won't get a job. So any in-person interview I go, I don't get a job. And I figured out that there's not been a single job that I've got through an in-person interview. All the jobs I've got an offer letter by phone conversations. And when I called my friend back in India, whom we used to work together and we started business, so I called him and I said, then he said, see, your problem is that you are not manageable. You can't be controlled. When you go for an interview, the interviewer thinks you are not something that he can control and get his work done. So that is why he doesn't want to hire you. And I thought maybe that's the reason. But then I broke that thing. I got a job with an in-person interview, 3-4 rounds of interview. That's when, till then I had this, behind my back, I had this fear. If I go for an in-person interview, I won't get a job. This was something behind my back. I was there till I had to break that mold and come to that thing saying that, okay. So maybe earlier on, it's not because of the fact that I won't get a job, it's that I did not fare well in those interviews. What they were looking for is not what they saw in me. True. And that is always how it works. But getting a job during a downturn like this, people want to hire others who can offer something tangible faster. That kind of jobs will exist. Like you have a need for a Python developer. You will go and hire a good Python developer. But people like me are not really needed, to be honest. But because also, why do you need a person like Vinod to come in and manage the Scrum and all those things? We want to get things working and we can live even without Vinod. Yes. So I think my role is something that if people are in my role, they have to be a bit afraid. I mean, these are not the good markets to be in. That's my personal opinion, because whatever I offer doesn't have an immediate tangible thing. It's a long-term value that I provide, and that long-term value many companies might not be ready to look at that long-term value many times during this time, unless they're ready to invest it over a period. At least that's my take. Unless you have such compelling reason to hire people.
So I think the point that you brought in right earlier on, I think for people to understand why is this change happening right now? Why is this whole entire people asked to work from home? How can it do it? I think people should understand that end of the day, IT is going to stay for a long, long time, and that is going to make it more enabling. It is just that the 6 month or 1 year down the line, auto changes, everyone had to work at home or being able to do it internet has happened fast. They have forced it to happen right now, and it is completely okay. And this is going to exist all around. I think that sense of contentment should be there for people, I think.
Yeah. So I think if you're in the software industry, you're in the best industry to be at this time. That's point number one. Whether you're what you're doing is immaterial, but if you imagine if you are in the hospitality industry, things would have been much more different, right?
Right.
And the fact that you can do your job working from home, you can be productive if you want to, you can deliver something you want to. That definitely you're in a sweet spot during this COVID time compared to any other set of workers. Knowledge worker is in a sweet spot. Yes, you might not, your customers are people whose business has been impacted. It's not because your business has been impacted. It is your
Right.
customers' business. See, it's a trickling effect, right? It's a domino effect. One thing happens, it trickles down. Because another reason is that majority of companies in India are on the service sector. You're
Right.
serving someone, and that is a whole different thing than product companies.
Right.
See, Amazon is a software company, right? Or rather, we call it a software company, though they have shipping and handling. Everything is a software company. Every company is a software company now. Walmart, it's a software company. Every Apple is a software company. It's a technology company. Everything is a technology company and software.
Right.
Now, in US, if you look at it, I live in the Silicon Valley. So here, a lot of people work in the IT sector, the tech sector. So a lot of people don't have a problem when, yes, you can work from home. Most of the people can work from home. But in US, if you look at it, a place like US, also only 35 to 37% can work from home.
Okay.
The remaining 63 to 65% cannot work from home. So which means that 65% of your customers have problem.
Very true.
Right? And then how do you survive? So then you start thinking about how to survive. So if not today, tomorrow you would always have opportunity because things are going to change. Just like I mentioned, how working from home, Zoom is the name that people are using maximum during these times, right?
Right. Very true.
And even to a great extent, Zoom has been our choice of conference in most of the companies that I was working, except for 2 years back when I was 3 years, 4 years, I was with Cisco when WebEx was the thing. But then I moved to other companies. Zoom was what we used to use. But I'm like StreamYard that we are using right now. I didn't know about StreamYard before. I never thought about using something like this. And this was another thing. The other day I was on a conference call with Stephen Kotler was doing a peak performance webinar. And he was using a different kind of tool. And the tool he was using, it broke in between. It stopped working. So many of these companies, they are not able to even take the load because there were some 3,000 people on the call at that time for a stock. So there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of product development ideas are going to come up. Now we have to start thinking products instead of projects.
True.
And
that mindset has to change.
Exactly. That mindset has to move from projects to products and being a service company to product company. Now, the interesting thing that we talk about now is people say, yesterday also someone asked me, why you're still on TikTok? Why don't you delete TikTok from your phone? I said, why do you want me to delete TikTok? Make a TikTok. See, majority of the people, you know how many users from India use that thing? If you could build something like that, don't you think the entire Indian users will go to it?
Sure, sure.
But people will rather think about getting a job in a company like TikTok or Facebook. Facebook, I agree. Facebook, I agree, because it's a large organization building another Facebook and all. But TikTok, your majority of users are from India. Major number of users.
So you should have that mindset to build
Yeah,
something
you have
new.
mindset to build something like that, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
True, true. So that mindset has to have. And then we have a question. I think two questions we'll take it up.
Yeah.
And one is on how to put your questions properly in a retrospective meeting, difficult questions. And second one is on, there are a lot of continuous changes of requirement happening in Agile. That creates a lot of panic within the team. How do you convince? These two questions we'll take.
Yeah. So retrospective, we typically ask that 3 questions and kind of see what improvement happens. Now, retrospective can also go in terms of complaining.
Right.
Things did not go well. This guy was not there. That maybe it's an internal complaint. Maybe it's an external complaint. Sometimes, and that's where you should provide, as a Scrum Master or person who's managing the team, you should be able to give them that freedom to say what it is. And sometimes people don't say, because even if I say nothing is going to happen, then why should I even say?
Right.
So you, as a person, you should give them the faith that something is going to change, right? Otherwise, this guy will become just a complaint box. Every time he comes and he complains about things.
True, true.
I'm not saying there are no people like that. There are people like that who will probably only complain. But not every person is like that. And not every complaint that they would bring up is not genuine. I mean, everything. So when a question comes, then that you can answer. How do we change it? So that's also something that can be discussed over there. What do you suggest? So you come to me with a problem and you say, I said, okay, good. First, you have to recognize when you come to a problem with me, I should also feel that's a problem. And instead of telling you there's no problem, I ask, okay, then what do you suggest? What should we do? Many times they will have, if they genuinely find a problem and they're coming with a problem, they would have thought a bit on what should change. And they would give some suggestion as to maybe we should do it this way. Maybe that I would be the reason for the complaint. Then you can tell me that this is the problem. So I think the transparent conversation can do, and you can even use things like we have a problem. Then you have the fishbone method, right? The 5 whys. Why? You kind of figure out what the real problem is. And so I think that if you provide that transparency to people to come up, that is, but the first time for people to come out, maybe you will have to go and put a complaint and make people feel comfortable. Because people don't know what to say, what not to say. You can structure and say that in retrospective, these are the things that you can say. These are the things that you can say. There's no stupid question. They can we have or state always that there are problems. We know we have problems in the horizon that goes in all these scales. But don't allow the retrospective to become just a venting out thing. Even if you allow that for 2 times, and that's where the retro board helps. You will first day maybe it is total venting out, and because that happens when I join a company and I'm there to coach the teams. Initially, they feel comfortable after they meet me and all, and they start venting out. First retrospective is venting out. Second retrospective is venting out. But if the retro board is not there, the third retrospective is also going to be venting out. You'll always find something. And then the fourth retrospective, he'll say, this joker has nothing to do. He always hears us, nothing is happening. Because nothing is happening. When the retro board is there, you will slowly see things progressing. And then people will start saying, okay, I am raising an issue and someone is listening to it and someone is trying to make a difference.
True.
So I think that helps. That's point number 1. Then the other question was, when changes come, how do you handle it, right?
Right.
So there are 2 kinds of changes, as you know. I mean, changes might come mid-sprint. Changes might come before sprint. Okay. There are many cases where people accommodate changes mid-sprint. That is when the sprint is in flight, which is a total no. And if the product owner is coming with a change in flight, then there's some seriously wrong in how the product backlog is being managed and how we're doing sprint planning to get the sprint backlog. There's some serious issues over there. So what I do always is that, so that doesn't mean you cannot bring a change. You can cancel a sprint if you want. I make it extremely difficult for the product owner to incorporate a change mid-flight. I make it public. I create a lot of issues. I make sure that he's always frightened. He or she is frightened and afraid and scared to come with a change mid-flight.
Oh, great. I think it's a complete no-no to any change in the mid-flight. We'll go for it, and we'll go with that plan.
But I never say no. I'll just make sure that he knows that when he comes over there, he'll be whipped 15 times. He will be made to stand naked and go up and down. Everything. We'll make sure it is so much. He will have nightmares of bringing a change in flight.
Oh, great. I mean, that's a very nice way and do this. I think we are actually on the closing note time. We are actually reaching.
But he can bring changes if he wants to, provided he can go through the
normal sprint process.
Sprint process, yeah.
Exactly. So on a closing note, right? I think we would ask one question. What is your normal daily routine?
Oh, my daily routine is a very, very. You're asking me personally? Or
Yeah. You're asking you.
So my daily routine is now I'm working for my own. So my working routine is pretty flexible from that perspective. But I start at 6 o'clock. I go to bed around 9:30, 10. I sleep by 9:30, 10. I'm done in the evening. And in between, I have the daily walks. I have time to read. I have time to do all those things. And I don't have a calendar that I follow. To be precise, I don't have a calendar that tells me that I work from 9 o'clock this thing. But I'm all done, ready for my work by around 8:30. 6 o'clock I get up, and by 8:30 I'm done with all my breakfast and everything, and then 8:30 I'm done. 8:30 then I will have a set of items that I'll have to do during that time. I do that, and then 12 o'clock or something I'll check up, because my wife is also working from home right now, but she has meetings at this time. So we coordinate when we have to go for walk and all those things, and then move forward. So otherwise, if when I used to work for a company, at that time, typically it is managed by the meetings that you have, right? Because you have meetings, you have your daily stand-ups, you have your sprint planning, you have all those activities. Now most of my time is with Pen Positive I run courses. So I have material that for creating course, because I have an Agile course that is coming up probably in the 2 weeks, Being Agile course, which now most of my time is, I finished recording the courses, so my time is on getting the course up and running, and all the materials for that and everything. So that takes most of my time. But it's all individual. I have to work rather than working with someone. Then I have these webinars and stuff like that come in. Otherwise, I'm pretty flexible on my time to do what I want.
Great. I mean, that is a great point. So, Cipson, do you want to ask that last question on how to manage the multiple stand-ups when the team is spread? Probably you want to ask that on a closing note, Cipson.
Yeah, that multiple stand-up. I thought we are already wrapping up. Do we have?
Yeah, I think.
No, when you say multiple stand-ups, you're talking about multiple stand-ups with the same team?
Yeah, with the same team in multiple time zones. We'll just take
multiple stand-up. I think we don't even have to. Yeah, definitely. When you have different time zones, you're working with someone over here. It is difficult to have multiple stand-ups because midday it's not possible most of the cases. But you can do a start and end. You could probably do. My reason about multiple stand-up for a team within a time zone is what I was primarily talking about, because it's practically impossible, and it doesn't make sense to ask people to get on calls at 10 o'clock at night for a stand-up. But if everyone is in Kerala, for example, having having multiple stand-ups would help. But I saw there was someone telling that shouldn't we totally go without stand-ups? There are people who want to work without stand-ups. These are individual contributors, but agile teams don't work with individual contributors. They work with team players, and we don't decide a daily stand-up, or we don't decide no for daily stand-ups because one person likes to work that way. Because there are people who would be more productive without a daily stand. And if a person cannot even spare 10 to 15 minutes for the team, the person shouldn't be in the team, period.
Got it. I think it's very valid point. Thank you very much. I think, so I think it's been a great talk till now. I think, we had a lot of key points getting addressed in a very short span of time, and which made, from your experience and what you felt in your life, right? So do you want to have, Cipson, do you want to add something? We want to have Deepu also join us, who would want to say some words.
Yeah, Deepu, who is the key leader, who is driving this FAYA Port 80. This is one of the biggest technology group in Kerala, running by Deepu. Over to Deepu.
Yeah. Hi, Cipson. Hi, Vinod. It was indeed a great session. I really enjoyed. And as we said, it is indeed a tough time for all of us, but it is also provides a lot of opportunities, as we said. And being agile is not just a buzzword. It is a life skill that we need to have to adapt. And thank you for looking into it from different angles and answering all the questions that came during the live. And Vinod, we really respect you, and we surely want you to come here for more sessions.
Sure. Thank you.
And thank you all for the live questions and staying the late night watching us live. And the session will be recorded and available in YouTube, so people can rewatch, and please do share.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.